Welcome to lesson 4, where we are going to be looking at social media auditing and competitor research. In this lesson, you will learn why auditing is important, as well as how to conduct a social media audit, check that your profiles are optimized with various tasks, analyze your social media posts, as well as conduct competitor research. So I hope that you are amped for an awesome lesson ahead. Let's jump in and look at what a social media audit is. A social media audit can be defined as a set of steps taken to evaluate and optimize a business's social media profiles as well as its strategies. Auditing allows you to identify any strengths and weaknesses, and that means that you can identify and eliminate any activities or actions that are not contributing meaningfully to achieving your goals. You also can identify any missed opportunities. Maybe there are opportunities that were not clear before, such as co-branding opportunities or even targeting different markets. You are also able to check that your brand is being accurately represented online. It's important to ensure that your social media profiles are on brand, representing your brand correctly, and driving the right messages home to help you achieve your goals. It also helps you to identify and eliminate any inactive accounts. And finally, auditing can help you to choose the right channels and ensure that your content is aligned with your goals and what you want to achieve. In the last lesson, we looked at goal setting. So you should have your goals and know what it is you want to achieve. Now, you need to find out what is helping you and what is hindering you in your social media marketing. Before we begin, you are more than welcome to access your template after this lesson in the summary notes, but you can also create your own template document in an Excel spreadsheet. If you are going to create your own template, then you need to make sure that you include your social media platform, your profile information, so your name and URL, any engagement metrics that you want to measure, publishing metrics, audience demographics, referral traffic, as well as any channel-specific metrics. But we are going to be going into all this detail with my template. Before we begin though, how often do you think you should audit? You can type your answer into Morpheus and you can simply answer A, B, C, or D. A for weekly, B for monthly, C for quarterly, or D for annually. How often do you think a social media audit should be conducted? An audit should ideally be done every quarter. You will need to do an audit at the beginning of developing your social media strategy and then continuously updating and analyzing in order to maintain your channels and continue producing high quality content. This should be used in conjunction with your monthly social media reports. Right, let's jump into step 1, which is to identify your social media channels. When you identify your social media channels, you can search the web, so either your company name plus the relevant social media channel that you are looking for, or alternatively, you can just search your company name and see what comes up. And you can also look on your social media networks where you want to then log your findings on your Excel spreadsheet. You can break down your channels into your primary channels, so you can then list the channel as well as the profile handle and the profile URL so that you can easily access it. Then you can list your secondary channels. List the channel, delete or optimize it, and set a deadline. Get rid of any channels that don't bring you any value. Just delete it. Because if a user comes across that channel and it is outdated and nothing has been posted for a very long time, then that is not likely to build trust with your brand. If you want to put some channels on the back burner until you have solidified your strategy with your primary channels, then give yourself a deadline for when you will get back to it and try and decipher what the purpose of that channel would be. At least ensure that the channel is optimized. If necessary, you can even put a note there that directs them to any of your other social media channels saying that you will get back to it. If you want to decipher your primary channels from your secondary channels, you can go into your Google Analytics and you can see which channel is bringing in more value. Be careful when you are analyzing your content, because while we can see that YouTube is bringing in a lot of conversions, the conversion value is 0. So this might be a full form, for instance. You do still want people filling in forms or making inquiries with your company. However, that is not going to bring in a conversion or create any value for your company. However, when you look on Google Groups, the conversions are a lot lower, but their conversion value is much, much higher. So then you can identify which of your social media channels is of more value to you and to your business. Step 2 is to fill in the relevant data. Now, in our last lesson, we looked at aligning our metrics and aligning our business goals with our social media goals and with our metrics. We now need to align the relevant metrics to the relevant social media channel, which we should have done in the previous lesson. And then we just want to pop that into our audit document. So we want to ensure that we include our followers for each platform, as well as the relevant metrics that we want to measure for each in line with the goals that we have set. We also want to fill in data for each of those metrics. The first time you conduct a social media audit, it provides you with a benchmark to be able to measure your overall success going into the future. Once we've got that all filled in, as well as the actual metrics that they are currently standing, we then want to add in our target demographics, step 3. You should have a pretty good idea of who you are targeting on each channel based on the buyer personas that we created and the platform demographics that we can research online. But we can also always go back to our individual channels to make sure. So we can just pop onto our Facebook Insights and we look at people. We can see we have a relatively even split between women and men, and between the ages of 18 to 44 is our highest target group. If we look at Twitter, if we go to audience, we can see that we have an almost even split between male and females. And then if we look at our YouTube audience, we can see that we have majority male and mostly between the ages of 18 to 44 again. So step 3 is to then fill in our platform demographics, and what you can also do is put in your relevant buyer personas next to that. So for your other marketing team members or for future marketing team members, then they know which platforms link to which buyer personas, and this really just helps them to get a better idea of what kind of content to create. On the topic of content, step 4 is to look at your individual posts and analyze them. So we want to look at how our individual posts are performing and what metrics are related to those. Remember, in the last lesson, we looked at how to interpret data by looking at certain metrics in conjunction with each other. You want to do the same with your individual post analysis. For your post analysis, you want to look at your top posts per platform. And when we get into individual posts, you can then break down your template into separate tabs for each channel, as well as adding their relevant metrics. So let's have a look at the Facebook tab. At the top of each one, you'll want to ensure that you check up on your account and your branding. So, has the account been verified? Verification tells users that the account is the authentic account of a public figure, celebrity, or a brand. When your account has been verified, a blue check mark will appear on your account. You also want to figure out whether your account is on brand. In lesson 2, we discussed the importance of having a consistent brand presence across all of your social media platforms. Is this channel consistent with your other channels? And would you be able to easily associate this account with your brand in the space of a scroll? Remember, that is all the time that you have, the space of a scroll. Is there anything on your social media account that needs to be changed? Double check your profile, your cover images, your about information, contact information, look at your call to action buttons, as well as your locations. Are these all correct? Are they all the same across all of your channels? And is there anything that you need to change? And then finally, is there a centralized password? Do you have any office password conventions? While you need a password that people can't hack, you also want to ensure that in the event that absolutely no admins are around, or they all happen to leave the company at the same time, whatever the case is, there needs to be a way to get into that account. Is it perhaps stored somewhere central? Is it accessible? I would actually add an additional column in there to name all the individuals who have admin access to your social media. And then when you want to analyze your individual posts, if you are conducting your audit for the first time, I would look at least about 6 months worth of data if possible. It also depends on what your time limit is. Alternatively, you can also look at the relevant data for that quarter if you are doing a quarterly audit. And also bear in mind that when you do your post analysis, each individual network is going to have its own metrics. And you want to link that again to your social media goals. So that is Facebook. On Twitter, you can see that the metrics have changed for the posts. And if we look on YouTube, you also want to align the metrics that you are measuring in your posts with the goals that you are trying to achieve. So always go back to what you are trying to achieve when looking at data and how certain actions will get you there. Step 5.1. Don't be confused when you see step 5 again. These are 2 steps that go hand in hand with one another. And you can also choose to do either or, but I would do both in different contexts, which we will go over right now. But before we do, can you remember what SWOT stands for? We covered this in lesson 4 of module 1 when we looked at strategy development. Are there any bells ringing if I ask you what S, W, O, and T stands for? It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So step 5 is to analyze what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are across your social media marketing efforts. Let's quickly recap what our SWOT analysis is. So as a reminder, when considering your strengths, you want to ask yourself, what are we doing well? What differentiates us from our competitors? What internal resources can we leverage as a strength? When looking at weaknesses, you want to consider, what does our company lack? What are our resource limitations? And what do our competitors do well? When identifying opportunities, we can ask whether there are any underserved markets that we are not targeting, whether there are any potential cross-selling opportunities between products and services, whether we have new products or services that we can use to our advantage, or whether there are any co-branding opportunities that are available to us. Finally, when we look at threats, we want to look at any emerging competitors that are coming up in the industry, any changing regulatory environments that might apply to us, any negative brand sentiment that we find online, and also any changing customer attitudes. Part 5.2 is to analyze your social media marketing through the stop, start, continue method. A more professional approach is to use the SWOT. However, I think that using them in conjunction with each other is a really good idea. Either you can do a SWOT and then use the stop, start, continue to analyze what actions to take from that information, but you could also conduct a SWOT analysis of your overall social media marketing and then use the stop, start, continue on individual social media channels. Alternatively, you could also use them all on everything. Remember that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to social media marketing, even when auditing. You can follow the basic steps or the flow, but ultimately it comes down to what works for your company, or alternatively what works for your clients. It also comes down to how much time you have, as well as what you're trying to get out of the audit. So when we look at step 5.2, when you conduct your stop, start, continue analysis, you can identify what you want to stop as it may be ineffective. Look at what you want to start doing on social media if it seems promising, and also what you want to continue doing if it is working well. And again, like I said, I would suggest that you do the stop, start, continue method within each individual one of your social media channels, because each one could be different. And then when we move on to step 6, we're going to look at the competition. You want to ensure that you take at least 3 competitors. You want to look at their website, look at their social media channels, and in this case, we would also look at what apps they are using. Identifying any similarities, such as color usage, we can see that competitor 2 and 3 both use almost the exact same blue in their background, so competitor 1 stands out a lot more, and this is an opportunity for you. A, make sure that you don't use that color blue, and B, find a way to stand out against competitor 1. Look at their ratings, look at their reviews, look at the number of downloads, and even download the app yourself to see how it works. When you are busy analyzing your competitor's website, you want to consider what the user experience is like. Here we have an example of Aptive, and you can see that they have beautiful user-generated content. So we're getting a good feel for what their style is and how it relates to their app. There's that blue coming through that we saw in their app. And you also want to consider what is the ease of use. How easy is this website to use? Is the content that they've posted on the website easily understandable? Is it easy to work out how to use or find the relevant information that people are looking for? If you have to sign up or purchase the app, is the purchase process quick and simple and easy? And what emotional response does this website evoke through their use of color, typography, and visuals? You can see they also have a chat box there, which is really useful. It means that they're easy to contact and easy to get hold of. Everything seems to be pretty straightforward, but have a look around and see what their process is. We also need to look at our competitors' social media channels. We can see a consistent brand presence across different platforms, and we can also see that they have a blue verified badge. They have added their products to their Facebook, and you should check out their about information. When we look at their content, we can see that they have used consistent visuals, and we can tell their content apart. So whether I'm looking at their blog posts, their feature highlights, or their artist highlights, we can tell each of those separate content pieces apart from a distance. So that if I'm only looking for which musicians they feature, I can easily identify that content from their blog posts, for example. They are also providing informative blog posts on information that their users would want to know, and they leverage themes and trends such as holidays. They also highlight the features of their product, but that is only occasionally. So they have a very, very good mix of various types of content that they are publishing, and they're publishing just often enough so that they retain their social media presence, but they don't bother anyone with too much irrelevant content. You can also keep an eye on your competitors with the Facebook's pages to watch feature, where you can see what their total page likes are, the percentage change from the previous week, the number of posts this week, and the engagement they have received on those posts. You're also able to view their latest posts, which is really interesting. And then we can also add to our Twitter list our competitors. So you can create lists from your profile, and you can go to the left-hand side admin bar, click on lists, and then you want to create a private list of your competitors in order to keep an eye on them. And finally, LinkedIn also offers a companies to track feature that allows you to view the followers, the follower growth, the number of updates, as well as the social engagement metrics for your competitors, which is really, really awesome. You want to then compare your competitors, and you want to add them to your audit document. Here you want to include their name, their social platform, the link to the profile, as well as the number of their followers, and any relevant metrics that you are able to access on the various platforms, as well as conducting a SWOT analysis on their social media platforms and their content. Again, we just want to recap the SWOT analysis. So similar to conducting a SWOT analysis for yourself, you want to consider what their strengths are. Ask yourself what they do well and what differentiates them from you. Also consider what they might be lacking and what they are not doing so well in order to gauge their weaknesses. Of course, you will not be able to see what their opportunities are necessarily, but you could possibly gauge any underserved markets they might be missing when you look at their content. You can also see how they cross-sell their products, if they do it all. You can see any new products or services on offer, as well as whether they post any co-branded content. And finally, you want to gauge what your competitor is doing better than you, because this is a threat to you, and we should be their threat. And finally, step 7 is to physically optimize your profiles. We're going to look at some general optimization tasks in lesson 5 of module 1. We looked at specific optimization tasks for the various social media platforms. Right now, we are going to quickly run through some more general optimization tasks that you can do, especially if your social media has been up and running for a while. Some of the general optimization tasks will be to optimize your strategy, conduct keyword research, optimize your content, as well as set a posting schedule, optimize each profile, and track and improve, as you know. Let's take a look at what you want to consider when you want to optimize your strategy. So once you have your strategy, the first thing you need to ask is whether your social media goals solve challenges. In the previous lesson, we looked at what we want to achieve, what we want to conserve, eliminate, and avoid. Having answered these questions, it means that you should know exactly what challenges your social media goals will solve. Number 2, are your social media efforts extending throughout the entire organization? Have you got buy-in from the relevant stakeholders and from your employees? Is everyone contributing to your social media? Number 3, does your strategy focus on social media platforms that add value? Now that we have done our audit, we can identify which platforms are valuable and focus our efforts on those. Remember, Google Analytics will tell you which ones are valuable. And number 4, is your content engaging? It had better be after we just did a post-analysis audit to identify the best performing content. And in lesson 7 of module 1, we also learned all about what makes engaging content. So if you can't remember, please go back and rewatch lesson 7 of module 1. Number 5 of optimizing your strategy is, are you able to identify any other business opportunities through social media? We have done our SWOT analysis, so you should know what potential opportunities you can take advantage of. Number 6, are you engaging with your audience? We have spoken about audience engagement. You do not always have to reply with an essay. However, a like or a reaction to their sharing of your post or their comment makes them feel as though you see their contribution. And number 7, are you tracking, measuring, and improving your efforts? You had better be after our last lesson, which showed you how to set your goals, align them with your social media goals, choose the relevant KPIs, and how to interpret that data and take action on it. We've also done keyword research, so we're just going to do a quick recap, because when you are analyzing, you want to get your list of keywords that you originally came up with. You want to check for the synonyms, and then you want to insert those keywords into your social media profiles and posts. When you conduct your audit, you want to ensure that you check which keywords you are using. Are they still relevant? Are there any additional keywords that you should be using or adding to that list? And then check up on their performance and adjust accordingly. When you are analyzing your content, you need to do A/B split testing. This is testing various elements of the same post or page. Maybe you have a post and each post has the same image or the same color scheme, but it has a different headline. Or maybe it has the same headline but uses different images. We've spoken about A/B split testing in the last lesson, and when you're split testing, please ensure that you only change one element at a time so that you know what makes a bigger impact. You also want to optimize your graphics, so analyze what graphics you are using. By now, we know how important using a relevant image is in our social media, and I have spoken about this in more than one lesson. Again, I want to highlight the importance of using images that appeal to your audience and that are relevant to the content that you are posting. You also want to analyze your hashtags. So research and use the relevant hashtags according to what your post is about. You also need to review your current list of hashtags and see whether they are still relevant to your brand and to your business. And finally, you want to analyze your post length. So keep in mind who your user is, because there's no point in posting a long post that users are never going to read. Each platform also has ideal post lengths that have been identified by industry experts based on data analysis. We will be covering post length in the next lesson. And then check your posting schedule. So I know that you have heard this before, but solidify that schedule and then also check whether it's working for you and whether it's still relevant. You need to consider the time, so what time you post to the various social media channels, as well as the frequency, how often you post to social media. And you can source this information and double check whether those times and frequencies are still accurate on your Facebook page, where it shows you where your followers are most active on your page. And then step 8 is to analyze your processes. So this will be your internal content creation processes. The first thing you want to do is create a list of who creates and posts content to your social media channels. This can also be used for your roles and responsibilities section in your social media strategy. You also want to consider whether you have a set of guidelines for the various types of posts that you use for your social media. This can save you a lot of time on content creation if people have guidelines as to what to create. You also want to ask, is your brand voice considered when creating content? This can save a lot of time and a lot of effort on reviews and approvals, especially for bigger brands where there are a lot of hoops to jump through before content can be published. Also, we have spoken about the importance of an emergency response plan as well as a customer query response plan. So make sure that you have one and revise the answers within it. Maybe it's outdated, maybe the information needs to be added. Is it still accurate and is it still relevant? And finally, does communication differ from channel to channel? Remember to consider the different audiences that you're targeting on each platform and what the purpose of using that platform is. So is it a support platform versus a community platform? They might have two different personas, but ultimately you will still want to ensure that it relates to your brand. I know that this all seems like a lot of work, but there are some tools for auditing that you are able to use. So luckily we're in the modern age where we have technology. Here are some auditing and software tools that you can use. Some of these auditing softwares include Social Bakers, Clear, Union Metrics, SumAll, Follower Wonk, which is only for Twitter, as well as Likealyzer, and that is only for Facebook. When it comes to choosing the tools that you want to use, you need to consider what you are trying to establish as well as the possible cost involved. Have a look at these platforms and choose what feels right for you. And